Hi, good people. This is Tracy Ford, Director of Quality Development for Community Mediation Maryland. And you are joining me on the third in the trilogy of our Radical Listening for Relationship Building. And I'm doing this pre-video because on the last one, I unfortunately forgot to hit record. So this is just a preview of and a post view of what we've covered and what we're about to cover. So in video one, we had the video one was about listening when it's hard. And I introduced you to inclusive listening and hearing what people saying and breaking it down in a non-judgmental way in terms of feelings, values, and topics. Then in video two, speaking when emotions are high, you were taught how to take those feelings, values, and topics that you heard and how to say them in a way that supports the non-judgmental environment that you want to have for radical listening. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how to ask questions in a way that encourage understanding. And you're going to be taking the feelings, values, and topics, right? And we're going to talk about their relationship to one another and using open-ended questions to support opening up more information, okay? So I hope that this is helpful for you. And this is just a reminder that Prince George's Community Collaborative Resolution Center, PGCCRC, is committed to being of service to you. So please refer your conflicts, whether they be workplace, parenting plan issues, family issues, neighbor issues. We are committed to serving your community, serving this community and making sure that you have access to the high quality conflict resolution services that we provide. You can reach us at 301-690-0116. Again, that's 301-690-0116. And our Facebook page is at Prince George's Resolution Center. Thank you so much for viewing the video and please enjoy. All right. And we're doing a shared screen and we're going back to this grandparent. Okay. All right, so the topics we have are time with grandkids, food, and children's activities. All right, and I just want to drive home the point again of the relationship between the feelings, values, and topics. So let's do it with time with grandkids. What were the values? And we have some values on here about time with grandkids. What were the participants' values in terms of time, specifically around the topic of time with grandkids?
Having fun.
Having fun, right? What else?
Giving them freedom.
Freedom, right? And this grandparent was also kind of worried about what's going on with child rearing. Some people call it child rearing, parenting, that kind of thing, right? In terms of time with the grandkids. What's the feeling? So I don't get to see my grandkids. What's that feeling?
Alienated.
Alienated. Okay, cool.
Rejected.
Rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Sadness.
Or surprise.
Rejected. Yeah, we can try out sad, right?
What about surprised?
Surprise.
Sounds a little surprised.
Okay, we can try those out. So with time with grandchildren, let's do fun being a value, right? Fun being a value. What's the feeling that they have around what time with the grandkids looks like?
The feeling. Let me pull my paper back up.
Say it again.
Oh, sorry. Okay, the feeling around what?
So they time with the grandkids and the value of fun. What do they feel about that?
Okay.
I feel it's important for the kids' development.
So I feel that is important is their position. That's their position, right? But what's the
Mhm.
feeling
Dis-
about it?
Distrusted?
Distrusted. Okay, cool. I like that.
Hmm.
That is on there.
You know, Tracy, I had trust as a value. Does that wash?
You can do trust as a value too.
Or can you? Okay.
You can fit under both. All right.
Okay.
So I was thinking I like distrusted. I like trust. I was saying when it came to grandkids, that fun was important to them, and they were feeling judged by what was happening with time with grandkids. And
Mhm.
so my point is, I want you to see that these things aren't existing in a value. They tie together, okay? So when it comes to food, they're looking for fun and freedom and indulgence, right? They're their values, right? And right now they're feeling adamant about the results of not getting that. And I might even say worried
Mhm.
and again, distrusted with those things,
Mhm.
okay? So it's not uncommon that that a feeling can string through all of your topics and a value can string through all those topics, right? But we want to make sure that we understand the relationship between them, because let's say we're the parent. We're the parent, and this person, this grandparent comes to us with this vent. And in my head, you know, I'm the parent hearing this vent like, woman, you see these kids every day. We live next door. They come straight to your house after school and stay with you until my husband and I get off from work. And the only reason this is coming up right now is because I talked to you about going to their other grandparents' house next weekend. And now all of a sudden you never get to see your grandkids. Really? Right? Now, if I go in with that eye look, that tone, that is not going to be building relationships, right? All right. And so instead, what I want to be hearing as we looked at our reflection is what's important to them and the feelings and values they have associated with them. So using your inclusive flow formula, I think I'm hearing you're feeling judged around my decisions about what the time with the grandkids looks like. Is that right? And for you, like having quality time with them and having that time be fun is something that's important to you. Is that right? What do you think of that, Dana?
Okay, yeah, I see it now. So like it seems like you're feeling judged about some of the freedoms that you're allowing the children to have while they're with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like those, you know, enabling the children to have that freedom is something that is important to you and that you value.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And then the topic would be, I guess the topic's in there, right? It's about the time with the children. So you want to make sure you want during the time that you have with the children, it's, you know, for you, it's important that they, you know, feel free to be kids.
But remember, you're the person on the other side. So
This is not, we're not in mediation. We're not in mediation. I'm mediating my own conversation.
Right, you're having this conversation. So you are that parent that is saying, okay, so you're feeling judged by the decisions that I made around food and their activities and their time even with you. Is that right? And I think I'm hearing for you, it's important that your time with them, it sounds like you're looking, you know, feeling hurt by the frequency and also feeling judged because fun and freedom are important to you when it comes to those things. Is that right? Okay, so I'm talking to them as me. And so if I lead with you're feeling judged because of my decisions, that they're less likely to get defensive about that. Would you agree or not agree? Feel free to challenge me.
No, I agree. I'm a little embarrassed that I thought I was in mediation. But okay, going back on mute.
No, that's fine. You're fine. No. I think everyone has been kind of struggling with like, putting themselves in the situation. Okay. All righty. All right. So let's look back at this one. And well, no, I'm sorry. That's not what I want to do. Don't get far away from that. So if you have it up on your screen, keep it there. But we're going to get into open-ended questions. And we're going to be coming back and asking this grandparent some open-ended questions. All right. So I'm going to share our next handout, which is about open-ended questions. And again, if you cannot open it in the chat, please let Terry know so that she can email you, okay?
And can I ask if you need me to email you to attach your email address when you chat me?
All right. Can you see the open-ended questions handout on the, okay, you can. All right, I am also going to screen share it. It's not my favorite thing to do. Is internet service funny tonight because now Friday night parties are all happening online? All right. Let's do that shared screen. All righty, let's make that a little bit bigger. All right. Can I get a reader to read this page for me, please?
Open-ended questions can, 1, keep people from getting defensive, allow people to focus on what's important to them, keep information flowing, focus people on the problem instead of the person with whom they are angry, break down the problem into manageable pieces, protect your neutrality, break through code words or euphemisms to determine topics, focus people on solutions, generate more creative solutions.
All right, beautiful. Any questions about any one of those things and what we mean by that? What do we mean by keep people from getting defensive? Open-ended questions can keep people from getting defensive.
You don't want them to feel like they're being accused, or you don't want them just getting defensive. So, like, I'm thinking a better way of saying it. Like, in open-ended questions, it makes it harder for them to twist it in a way that you don't want them to take it the wrong way.
Can also give them a way to, it gives them an opportunity to explain if it's not being explained correctly. You know, so it's like, no, that's not what I mean. I didn't mean that. What I meant was blah.
Right. And because like when we ask a series of closed-ended questions, that's the thing that can make people feel defensive, right? My favorite example of that is from the movie with Jack Nicholson and oh goodness, I'm blanking on his name. Tom Cruise, right? And Jack Nicholson is on the stand and Tom Cruise just keeps asking him a series of closed-ended questions, right? And it ends with, tell us the truth. And Jack Nicholson explodes in that famous line. Anybody can give that famous line? What's the famous line? You can't
handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth, right? And he does that, why? Because he's getting defensive. He's feeling put on, he came on to be a witness and now suddenly he's on trial, right? And so people can feel that way in real time as well when we just bombard them with closing questions. And instead of bombarding with closing questions that make people defensive, we're going to ask open-ended questions that allow people to tell the story as in a way that helps them share what's important to them, what their values are, what they think the topics are, right? And we're going to get some examples of breaking down code words. But Atul, can you finish up that list below?
Sure. Below are some examples of open-ended questions beginnings. Describe. Tell me about. Break that down for me. What do you mean by? Explain. What? How? Talk about. And help me understand. And warning, asking why often puts people on the defensive.
A good open-ended question can build your understanding and clarity of participants' feelings, values, topics, and to be resolved. So again, this handout is written from the perspective of a mediator, but this is also true if we're having conversations, difficult conversations, or even not so difficult conversations with folks in real time in our real lives, okay? More importantly, a great question can build understanding or even empathy between participants. They might even help fix past misunderstandings or miscommunication. So after you have fully reflected back what you have already heard from the participants, notice that is in bold and in all caps, so you know that's really important to us. Here are some examples of types of open-ended questions that support this understanding, okay? So first, before I even ask an open-ended question, I'm gonna make sure that I've understood the things that they've already said, checking back in with the feelings, values, and topics. Why am I doing that? Why am I doing that first?
Make sure they're relevant.
Make sure, yeah, it can help people make sure the question that you're about to ask is relevant, right? And that you understand the things that they've already said, right?
Clarifying
Say that one more time, Lydia.
to basically it's like clarifying or something like that.
Exactly right, because I don't want to ask questions about things they've already covered, right? So I do want to get that clarification. Awesome. All right, can I get somebody to read the unpacking buzzwords or lingo, please?
Unpacking buzzwords or lingo. This can be applied when participants use a specific technical word and you want to create clarity about the definition or meaning. When you say 1040 EZ, can you tell me what that means? You said you were in survival mode. What do you mean by survival mode?
Okay. All right. So that's just a great question to kind of break down. Even if you feel like you know, you still want to understand from the participant, from the person that you're having a conversation with, that y'all are on the same page about it. Okay. Can you read the next one for me too, Asia?
Sure. Asking for broader information. Often people start talking about specific things related to a broader relationship. In a neighborhood conflict, can you describe the neighborhood? In a workplace conflict, what is a typical day like in your office?
Okay. Did we skip one? Did we skip two?
Yeah, we skipped one.
Did we?
Yeah.
We skipped number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Unpacking loaded language or insults. When a participant uses blame language or insults, there's often a larger meaning behind it. When you say Ming's place is nasty, can you tell me more about what that means to you? You said she was racist. What do you mean by racist?
All right. Awesome. All right.
So I have a question actually. So at what point do you, I guess,
Asia, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. At what point do you not ask a question because you feel like the answer would be obvious and it might sound insulting? And the reason why I'm asking that question is the example that you used here. I kind of feel like, and I could be wrong, but something like racist, pretty much everybody knows what racist is.
Well, let's look at that.
So I'm wondering at what point would a person might find that insulting? You know what I'm saying? Like something that might seem like it should be really obvious.
No, well, let's check to see if it's really obvious, okay? You said she was racist. What do you mean? Well, I mean that, like this restaurant is in a predominantly Latina neighborhood, and I don't see any I see all these pictures of people in Hollywood that are Jewish, that are Italian, that are white, but I don't see a single picture of a Latina actor, not Rita Moreno, not Jacob Colenza, not Eric Casada even, that's racist, right? You said she was racist. What do you mean?
Okay, so we're not, we're
Wait a minute, let me give these examples. When you say she's racist, what do you mean she's racist?
yeah.
Like every time I come in, she says hi to everybody in the store but me. She's racist. Okay. You said she was racist. What do you mean she's racist? Well, I mean, I saw a news report of her in the news and her being recently put into the first female head dragon of the KKK. So she's racist. All right. So we sure. So with the first one, the topic would be about pictures, right? The second one, the topic would be about communication, right? The second one, maybe the topic is about news reporting or about, I'm not sure what the topic. I need more information to figure out what that topic is. But so it may be racist, it may not be racist, but I don't want to assume that I know what the people mean by racist. And even if it is racist, I still don't know what the topic is in that situation. Okay.
Got you. What I get confused by the smallest things. I was confused by the word bi. What do you mean by racist? And I kind of thought we were asking her to define racist, not define what her experience.
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's.
She is racist.
I'm always confused by the most inane tiny things.
No, that's really good feedback.
Perhaps there's other ways to get at the same thing, like to ask for an example, or what did that racism look like?
Right. Yeah. What is when you say racist? What do you mean by that? Yeah.
Or even when you said, "What do you mean she's racist?" That definitely sort of engendered like her to explain her experience, not define the word. Like I kind of was in like define that word, like mode.
So I need for us to do radical listening to build relationships. I need us to have a balance of, I know this person, I know where I can go with this person, and courageousness. All right. I need us to hold both of those things up, right? And so, and by courageousness, I want us to ask ourselves, is it, are we saying, oh no, she's going to be offended that if I ask her this, or I'm uncomfortable asking this, right? And so with both of those answers, I really want to push myself. All right. And so if I think the answer to my question, they're going to be offended, then I'm gonna put a lot of buffer and down felt feathers and velvet around it when I ask it. So I know you've talked about this a lot, and I know this can be a sensitive subject to you, and I feel like I really need to know when you say her place is nasty, what do you mean when you're saying her place is nasty? Okay. And just making sure that, that we're not responding to our own fears about what's going to happen, or solely about our own feelings, and we're pushing ourselves to take this relationship to the next level with courageous honesty. All right. All right, can I get somebody else to pick up reading? Was somebody trying to ask a question? I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time seeing faces when I'm sharing screen. All right, can I get somebody to pick up at 4? Which is asking for background. I scrolled up too much, I apologize. If you could read 4 and 5, that'd be great. My person who's my next reader. Ellen, was it you volunteering?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Asking for the background. When people come to mediation and are discussing a deteriorated relationship, in a conflict, what were things like before this started? In a business conflict, oops,
I hear you.
where'd it go? I can't see it.
Okay. Can someone else pick up? Did I disappear?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll pick it up for her.
Okay.
I can see you, but I can't see the
The shared screen. Okay.
Do you want me to pick it up?
Yes, please, Dorothy.
Yeah.
Okay. Asking for the background. When people come to mediation and are discussing a deteriorated relationship, in a friend conflict, what are the things like before they start? In a business conflict, how was communication before the situation with the timesheets? In a workplace conflict, you said things are good. I'm sorry, you said things are good before. What was they like?
Okay, what was that like? All right. So
What was that like?
Before this started? How was communication before this situation with the timesheets? You said things were good before. What was that like? All right. So in our conversations with the people that we might be having this conversation with, it said, so it sounds like you miss the early days of our relationship and miss the romantic parts. What was I doing differently then that you miss? Okay, something like that. Dorothy, can you keep doing number 5 for me, please?
Tracy,
Yes.
can I just let you know that it's 7:26?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Asking about mystery topics. When people bring up vogue concepts that you are not sure what they mean, you keep mentoring, punching some buttons at the counter. Can you help me understand what that is about? I heard something about the other people's opinion. Which other people? Earlier you said you and Rashida had a lot of difficult conversations. Can you describe what you meant by that, or what they said, or what they were about?
All right. Now, if you are trying to get extra listening point credits in your romantic relationship, and you let them come home from a hard day of work or volunteering or whatever difficult things they have going on, and you let them vent and don't just tune out, but ask a great open-ended question like this that would get some clarification, great things are going to happen in your life. I'm not going into details. I just want you to know the great things life after this. All right.
Or boundaries. When one participant has information about the rules, laws, boundaries, parameters, etc. You mentioned the Homeowners Association rule book. What is your understanding about the Homeowners Association rules about lawns? You were saying something about the law being on your side. Can you talk more about your understanding of what the law says? There was something in there about boundaries in the employee code. Can you tell me more about what the code says?
Awesome. Can you just please?
Go deeper. When someone says something that might be helpful to hear more about. You mentioned it was fun to be on your own. What was fun about that? You said that time in your life was really hard. Can you describe that? Should I keep going? Get perspective. When only one participant has talked about a topic, there's an opportunity to hear from everyone about it. John, I heard you say you were feeling really burdened and overwhelmed around the division of work and looking for some fairness in the way it happens. Is that right? Mary, we haven't heard much from you about the division of work. What's going on for you around that? Alex, it sounds like efficiency and timeliness are important to you around the reports. Wayne, I haven't heard anything from you about the reports. What are your thoughts about them?
Okay. So let's go back up to, what I have you rate? 7, 8, and 6, 7, and 8. So making sure that all of us in the room, if I'm in a conversation, it's multiple people, that we have the same understanding about what's going on. So I mentioned in the gathering that one of the things I'm working on is that I'm trying to build relationship around is that there's conflict in my family and specifically about our family reunion. And an open-ended question I wound up having to ask was, I had a cousin that kept citing some bylaws that we had about the family reunion. And I was like, what bylaws? Like the reunion's been going on for 93 years. I've been there for 40 plus of them. And it was my first time hearing about bylaws. So of course I don't jump in and like, what bylaws? As if he had just made that up. But I'm asking, you know what? This is the first time I'm hearing about the bylaws. Can you tell us more about about the bylaws and how they were developed? All right, which is a lot different, as Asia mentioned before, than what bylaws. And by asking that question, it's like it becomes a shared information amongst the whole family, you know. And I take the hit as the dumb Ford, but everybody has an opportunity to hear about that and to get that information too. I love these go deeper questions. So somebody mentioned it was fun being on your own. It was if you having that conversation with your child or with your parent, and they're feeling like that's coming to the end. We want to find out what was fun about it, so we can work with them to see if we can capture other ways to get that fun if the living arrangements are changing. All right. Now the getting perspective, that one's a little different. That's a real mediator kind of strategy. And I could see myself if part of this conversation is happening with more than one person. And I want to make sure that we are all engaged in the conversation. And I've heard a lot from one person and not from the other person. I might check in using a reflection involved in whatever feelings, values, and topics I heard with one of the people I'm having a conversation with, and then my open-ended question would go to the other one. We call that strategy a facilitation triangle, but we're not facilitating, we're conversing. All right, and so I think I'm hearing from you, one of the things that has kind of frustrated you about housekeeping here at the house is like you feel abandoned and alone and like looking for all of us to participate in it. Is that right? Looking for teamwork and inclusion in that. And I don't know, I'm trying not to say my roommates' names. I don't know, Kylie, what are your thoughts about that? Okay. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? I gotta pull up your beautiful faces again so I can see. I mostly see names and still shots, but that's okay. Hi, Sherry.
Hello.
Hey there. Did I hear somebody check in with a question or trying to check in with a question? Nope. Okay. Let's just read number 9. And then we're gonna look at since we did break a little bit later, I'm gonna read number 9 before we do the break, okay? Can I get somebody to read 9, please?
I can do it.
All right.
Get missing feelings, values, or topics. When someone has articulated one or some of the 3 and you haven't heard the others. For example, speaker, I'm sick and tired of that dog. Mediator reflects on the feeling and topic and asks a question to hear values. I think I'm hearing you say that you're feeling fed up with something that's going on with the dog. Is that right? What has been going on? Speaker, there is no way I can get any sleep with that thing barking all night. This means I sometimes oversleep, which forces me to rush around like a crazy person in the morning because being late is a no-no. Mediator, so it sounds like you're saying your rest is important to you and that because you value being on time for work, you feel pressured to rush when you oversleep. Is that right?
Okay. Now that is a great mediator reflection. And what I'm gonna do is instead is I am that person whose dog is barking all night and keeping my neighbor up. And my neighbor comes to me and says, your dog is barking all night, right? And so I'm gonna check in. So sounds like pretty exasperated with me and this dog. And can you help me better understand what's going on with that? Like I gotta sleep. You know, your dog's barking all night, and it can make me oversleep, which forces me to run around like a crazy person, and I'm not allowed to be late. Okay, so you need for us to come up with some sort of solution and make sure that you get your rest and you know, and allows you to be on time. And you're like right now you're feeling rushed in the mornings because of what's happening with sleep. Is that right? Okay, so in this one, I'm that person, and I am, you know, making sure I understand what my neighbor is needing from me. All right, here we go. We're gonna do the shared screen. We're gonna talk about these grandkids. Now here's the trick. There's 2 parts of this that makes that's going to make your listening radical, right? That's gonna make it radical. So the first part is you're going to have your children's grandparent, whether it's your parents or their grandparents from their other parent, coming at you with this, and you are consciously making the decision not to get defensive at that moment, but instead to focus your time and attention on working towards understanding them. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it could de-escalate things before they escalate.
Say that again.
It could de-escalate things before they escalate.
Yeah, there's definitely benefits to it. Like I'm clear that you get the benefits for it. That's why you came to this class. But I'm talking about the actual mechanics, what you would need to be able to prioritize listening to them, you know, in the midst of what can feel like a rather, you know, accusatory, like they're saying they're feeling accused and blamed, and you could wind up feeling accused and blamed as a result. I think there's some folks are commenting in the chat. Okay, some folks.
Self-confidence.
So what about self-confidence, Sherry?
When you kind of know who you are and where you are, you don't take other people's getting out irate personal, because you recognize that those are just emotions. And with enough communication, if people are sane, you usually can work through things.
Right, right. There's sanity can be helpful. And it doesn't also have to be a complete barrier. I agree with that. And I personally feel like I've achieved a fairly reasonable amount of groundedness, you know, that I can stand in the center of myself, and I don't go around apologizing a whole lot for who I am and how I am. And should my mother come to me with this vent, I could feel my throat getting dry just thinking about it, right? And personally, for me, it will take, you know, like I gotta do some internal, you know, yoga, Zen breathing to direct myself towards prioritizing listening to her rather than trying to defend myself. Any other mortals in the room like me? Like any other flawed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like it's way more satisfying to just come back with your perfect argument right away.
You know what? Thank you, Owen. That's another piece. Yeah, it is, you know.
And I feel like also, oh, sorry, go on.
No, you get it, Lydia.
I feel like also, you know, sometimes when we hear, like, as you were saying in the last class, when we hear certain words we don't like, it's like we stop listening and we stop hearing. It's like we are stuck on what the person has said previously instead of hearing, you know, the full conversation of what the person is saying. And we are not processing things fully.
Right. Did you just say I only feed my children carrots and celery? Did you just say that? Right. So I'm not gonna get stuck on that.
I find it's really super challenging when kinds of conversations when somebody is saying the same thing like over and over and over again, and it's just like I'm trying really hard to stay with them, but it's just like I heard you the first 3 times, so can we just kind of get to the point here?
Right. And so here, speaking of my mother, don't let her watch this. A conversation we used to have frequently was about me going back to school. You know, it was important to her that all of her kids have, you know, advanced degrees and stuff like that. And I just, you know, my time with school had passed. And we could not talk for more than 20 minutes before the conversation about going back to school would pop up. And it was shortly after I had gotten this, I'd been trained to be a mediator, like a year and some change after I'd been trained to be a mediator. And sure enough, we're at dinner and it pops up. And I was able to use these skills. And I was like, so what I'm hearing you say is you're worried about my ability to take care of myself. And looking for the comfort of me having an advanced degree and job security in particular is something that's important to you. Is that right? And I think it's also for you about me being able to thrive and not just survive, and feeling nervous about how I'm going to be able to do that with my current level of education. Is that right? She's like, yeah. And so she was like, what, like, she was like waiting for what are you doing right now? And I was like, all right, so I want you to know that I hear you on that. I do hear you about that. And then we haven't talked about it since then. She has not brought that up since then. That was like 15 years ago. And I remember getting in the car afterwards, headed back home. She was going back to Georgia. I was going back to Baltimore, and calling my sisters, like doing a group call and being like, I think I won an argument with mama. You know, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't an argument. I didn't win. I didn't come out with a zinger. All I did was just like demonstrate I could hear what was worrying her, what she needed from me and what was worrying her. And I think my ability to hear that made her feel more confident about my ability to take care of myself. Okay. So with this,
It's funny that you're saying that, Trace, because now I'm listening to you and now I'm thinking I need to use my feelings with my son and talk to him how he's feeling and just really work on it more now that I'm more going to be a mediator more often, you know?
I love it.
So I'm really sitting here taking that all in because even with my daughter, my one daughter, I have a conflict with her every so often about my grandchildren. There's a grandparent right here. You know what I mean? And so now I really got to implement all this hard work that I've learned,
right,
and apply it to my everyday life.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brenda. And I love what you're saying about leading with your feelings. All right, because that's the real vulnerable spot, right? That's the real vulnerable spot. And if you do it, you make an invitation for them to do it as well. You know, so if you come with, it's not a, you know, it's about, I'm feeling worried about you and I miss you and it makes me sad when I'm not able to have you in my life on a regular basis, you know, and I feel alienated from you, as opposed to, you're not doing life right. You're not doing adult right. You know, and that's
right, exactly. Like, and instead of going in and really thinking about your words. And you really have to think about your words because our words can hurt. Our words can hurt. And so we know, even as mediators, you know, I've used this mediation. I've used the actual, Kathy did a mediation for me, and this is how I got involved. And I was extremely impressed with the way that it was handled. But we went in as a positive outlook on it, you know, and that's what we're trying to do, is to try to get these people to understand, and we can't change them, but we're trying to give them a better understanding that we are listening to them and we are trying to help them.
So. Right. We're being of service, right? And in our conversations, right, we're being in relation. So we're being courageous. All right.
I will say this one really struck me, this whole story, because I left my son with my mother for a few weeks one summer. And, you know, we had very different ideas about how to feed him. I just totally avoided the conversation altogether. And when I picked him up 3 weeks later, I mean, he literally could not fit in the clothes that, like, I had sent him. I mean, his butt was hanging out of the back of his, I mean, he literally was just like, I don't even know how he got that shorts over one leg, let alone his body. So, yeah, so there's big costs if you don't, like, I was just like, I'm just not even going to touch it.
Right.
Let her be a grandmother and having no idea what damage could be done in like 3 weeks. Yeah.
Right.
He's still fighting those little fat genes, and he's 30-something years old now. Bless his heart.
Awesome. Well, let's look at more what this grandparent is talking about. So, what are some questions should be asking? Wait a minute, Ellen, I want to check in. It's also 911, not to be a conspiracy theorist. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I was just talking about the internet thing.
Oh, right.
9/11. It's 9/11 today.
It's 9/11. Oh, right. Gotcha. Yeah, that one works well too. I'm good for a conspiracy theory. So, all right. So, let's look at this grandma's vent. I'll pull it back up so you can see it. What are some questions that we need to be asking this grandparent? And I want you to challenge yourself and look at things that they have in here that you think you know what that means, but you don't necessarily know. You're filling in the blank. Ask a question about that blank. Would it help to read it again?
I think I might be curious I might ask, when you say you can't keep them, well, when you say I being on the other side, when you say I can't keep them cooped up the way I do, say more about that.
Yeah.
My instinct was to say, what do you mean by that? But I feel like even that sounds a tad confrontational when people are used to being triggered. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, I might try, if I'm the person in that conversation. I was like, when you were talking about keep them cooped up the way I do, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand what you mean by that.
That's right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else? That's a good one. Good one. What else?
I like the one when she said, "Did I teach you anything?" because that's always a grandparent's response. Like, did I teach you anything? Because then your question, you're not saying that, but in your mind, a grandparent's mind is you're questioning my ability to raise a child.
Right.
So I love the part when she said, "Didn't I teach you anything?"
Right. So like if I'm the parent, I might say, yeah, it hurt my feelings a little bit when you said that. And I'm not sure what is it that you taught me that you feel like I'm not doing?
Exactly.
Or yeah.
Or we managed to survive that. We managed to survive each other,
It's true. It's true.
So that's funny to me.
I also had one. When she said, "I must have been a terrible mother for my own child to keep my grandchildren away from me."
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird for me. I just don't.
Yeah. So maybe my question, like if I'm the parent and I feel like you spend a lot of time with them, right? My question may be, all right, like I would probably frame that around my reflection. So it sounds like you're feeling isolated and alienated from the kids.
No.
What's your understanding of the amount of time y'all spend together? Rather than me jumping in and say, you're with them from as soon as they get out of school, get off the bus from school until I get home about 5:30. They're over here almost every day over the weekend. Like and instead of me jumping in with that defending myself, what I can just say is, help me understand what you think the amount of time y'all spend together looks like.
Okay.
But there's some other open-ended questions. I'm gonna jump in here because we are getting short on time. I can't believe 5:30 to 8:30 goes so quickly on Fridays, even when the internet's bad. I would want to know, so with this sentence, just because Jamal came home with a scrape on his leg and a bruise on his butt, you think I let them run wild or I don't watch out for them? What would be the questions I want to ask from that statement?
Maybe you'd ask like, oh, can you talk a little bit more about how you kind of watch the kids or something like that, or get them clarifying that?
Yeah. So we can do that. I have to, my mother likes to be called mother. So I want to say, yeah, mother, I was curious about how did Jamal get the scrape on his leg and the bruise on his butt? What happened that day? All right, so get some clarification about that. If I was a mediator, I would be asking the question, who's Jamal? So But if I'm in this, I know who Jamal is, right? So, I know one of the things you're worried about is what's happening with food. And I think, like having some of the treats and the fun that I had as a kid, that you get to share that with the grandkids as well. So I don't know, Mom, can you talk a bit about like, what are meals looking like at your house? What are your thoughts about that? Would your mothers be okay with that question?
I probably would say,
let's hear it.
From a mother's perspective, if you're running short on food, I could give you extra money or I could bring some food.
All right. All right. Now, what does that say? If you say it like that,
it says she's poor, and so it's not a good way to say it.
She's poor, and the way she's doing food ain't right.
That's true.
Whereas you could come in with your feelings and your values about it, and still offer some suggestions. Like, so, Mom, I'm worried about like how food happens here when the kids are with you versus how it happens when they're at home. And it's really kind of important to me that we have consistency with meals between both houses. What are your thoughts about that? What do you think about that? What do you think about having a conversation like that?
I love it, actually.
Yeah.
I think it levels the playing field.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm leading with my feelings. I'm worried, right? I want them to have, I want values of nutrition and health to be in both households. How can we do that? Okay.
Or how about if they bring up something specific like, sugar intake, like I'd rather them not have, sugary snacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't mind them having sweet things, but can it be fruit or, instead of cookies and ice cream?
Can I add on to that? I think also they both have to come to a compromise. They have to compromise with each other. Okay, so if you're gonna have the kids, I may not want them to have, or you could give them some. I just feel like it's always compromising with each other. With okay, so you want, huh?
Well, I'm hearing what you're saying, Lydia. Like
Yeah.
You want to keep that tool of compromise available to us to sustain the relationship, and what challenge ourselves to do before we go into compromising, to like try to get a win for both of us, a complete and total win. All right. So like a compromise is like a partial win, but I want us, before we do that, to try to get a complete and total win. So there are strategies, there are ways. If like two bright folks can come up with ways where you have a sugar-free plan and a plan around food that's fun.
Yeah.
That's what we're asking, right? That's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Like, how do we get the nutrition and sugar-free foods that I want, and the fun and foods that also get them, give them some freedom around choosing around food?
Yeah.
What can we do? And so both of those things can happen.
Hey, Tracy, so like in that situation, let's say you as the mediator are like, let's say you have a solution in your head. You're like, oh, this seems like it would work for both of them, but the parties don't realize it or get it. Like it's not in their consciousness about that. Mm-hmm. When you ask it, if you ask an open-ended question, there's a possibility that you're kind of leading them to water, kind of like you're kind of directing them. Do you want to do that or not do that? Because in the sense,
as a mediator, I'm never going to do that. Like if I'm the person, if this is my mother and I talking about my kids, her grandkids, then I'm going to make suggestions. If I'm a mediator, I'm not going to ask open-ended questions that get them to a specific way. So I'm not asking open-ended question like, Well, what are your thoughts about fruit? Like, I'm not going to do that as a mediator.
They truly have to come up with it themselves.
Right, yeah, they truly have to come up with it, yeah.
Yeah.
And every time I think I have just the right answer for them, my participants always come up with something that's much better. Yeah. It's very humbling. I don't like it. But in my real life, I can have that conversation, and I think most people in my life would be excited about having that conversation that way. All right. So thoughts, questions, concerns about things that we've covered over these 3 days and how you might be utilizing these in your personal relationships to radically build relationships.
One thing I did love about what I think it was the second session we had about, when we don't communicate with each other, or we don't find a way to compromise, or find what the problem is, because sometimes people we end up with different assumptions and different ideas of what the situation is. Meanwhile, it could be something different from what the person is feeling. So that's something that I've struggled with personally, and I think that's been really helpful. And also just, I do find myself usually when somebody's talking and I hear a certain word I don't like, I'm stuck to that word to the point where I don't hear anything else but that word. So I feel like that's also helpful for me too.
Yeah, and thank you, Lydia, for that. And it is not no, Milt. Milt's trying to get me in trouble with my mom. Or maybe advocate for me with my mom. If the second one, then yes. Please do. I'll send you her number. Tracy's been very good today. A quick story about my mother. So she came when I was executive director in Baltimore City. I was host of I was one of the hosts of the annual fundraiser, and a lot of really prominent people came, and the director of Macro, which is one of the largest funders in Maryland for mediation centers, was there. And her name is Rachel Wall. She's wonderful. And she sees my mom. She's like, "Oh, we just love Tracy. She is wonderful." And my mother says, "Yeah, I keep hearing that."
That's what all parents say, trust me.
She's committed to staying unimpressed by me.
Now, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
There's 3 of us.
Okay. Are you the middle one?
I'm the middle one. How'd you guess?
There you go.
Well, to be fair, she is equally unimpressed by all 3 of us. So
really, okay.
Yeah, but she only says that in front of you. When you're not there, she's bragging and bragging and bragging.
That's what I tell myself too. At 47 is really fun. It's really just funny to me. So it's really funny. So this piece about we can hear a word, and we can get stuck on that, or it can take us to 10 on the escalation scale, and we can hear nothing afterwards, right? And so we can decide right now to take the power out of that word. We can decide right now that word, it will not control us anymore. That we have decided that we are going to be using listening and learning and language in a very different way to build stronger relationships. And that we are stronger than that word, we're more courageous in that word than that word. And this relationship is more important than that word. And we can decide that right now. Now, I say that, and it may take practice. So I encourage you, like the first time after this training, you hear this word or those words, maybe it doesn't take you to a 10, maybe you go to a 9.2. Give yourself credit for that. That counts. That counts as progress. All right. We are working for, this is what my executive director says all the time. Progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection.
Sorry. I think that that's one thing I've always struggled with is always, even if, when a situation presents itself, so, you make mistakes during that situation, that's how you learn from it. So for me, I expect myself, I set these expectations for myself to where it's like, I have to get it right. So I beat myself to it to the point where it's like, what am I doing? So
right. And I want to acknowledge there's some part of being angry and furious that feels kind of powerful, like you got your own inner Hulk going on, what I'm saying? And you just smash, right?
Yeah.
You feel powerful. And so one of the things I'm very well aware of asking people is to surrender that power in exchange for prioritizing and building relationships.
Yeah.
And that doesn't get you a reality show. Doesn't get you a reality show, doesn't get you more Instagram followers.
No,
Yeah,
but you do feel, I don't know. I mean, I just really feel artistic, when I can take a breath and go, deeper, higher into those uncomfortable places in a conversation, and just not surrender completely to, where I want to come from, just, off the cuff, and really, I don't want to say finesse, but it does take a certain amount of emotional finesse to, to not go there, to not, be triggered in those, old ways.
I feel also for me, it's also when the situation is very uncomfortable, I find it really hard. Like, let's say I'm in the hot seat, I find it really hard to be able to talk, to be able to, bring the situation up. So sometimes I avoid the situation, then somebody else brings it up. So it's like, okay, I could have brought it up and it ends up in a different way. Then I was like, okay, so I could have said something and, it wasn't that big of a deal. So, I tend to overthink things to the point where it's like I make it worse for myself when the situation is not even that bad.
Right. Yeah, right. And I want to take that and say, like, there's something that can be something powerful about getting in that zinger, right? Getting in that last and this is Maria asked me if I could like say the exchange of power thing I was just saying again. So I'm asking us, instead of like having the power of our fury around that word or that phrase that gets thrown at us that sends us at a 10, and that incredible high that we can get from being furious, that we're going to exchange that powerfulness with a different kind of power of being able to build relationships, right? And I love what Ellen said about this creativity. So instead of me getting in the last word and me crushing them, right, doing my Hulk smash, instead of doing that, I'm going to build. And so, and Lydia, I know that feeling where you're like, oh, I wish I said this. Oh, I wish I said that. And if you're going for the zinger, you got one good time.
Yeah.
You got one good time and you got to nail it, right?
You practice those words, you practice in your mind, and then when it's time, it's like, oh, never mind.
Right. Whereas in this other way, in this radical listening, we get to create patience for ourselves. We get to say, all right, I'm trying this new thing, right? With relationships like this one that are important to me. And I'm not great at it right now, but I hope you can be patient with me. And I tell already that I'm nervous and I'm anxious, and I'm gonna forget to say some things. And I hope that we can come back later and revisit where we left off in this conversation. But can I just give it a shot and tell you, you know, like right now I'm feeling hurt and frightened.
Be in the right state of mind. I mean, I may feel some type of way. So please be patient. So I usually don't say that. So I'll, go in a conversation and very nervous or would barely talk, barely speak, would just say yes or no answer, and that was it. So that was one thing I always struggled with, and it came to a point where, okay, I was grasping, being a little vocal and,
Gotcha.
speaking what I was saying, but then it's like, okay, I practice this line and, it's all in my head, and I was like, I know how I'm going to deliver it, but then when it comes time, I'm just like, never mind.
Yeah. And with this, we don't have to practice. With we can just be fully present.